Greetings, degenerates. Welcome back to the Cathedral. St. Michael here. In today's sermon, we're going to ask the question, what do you get when you take a woman that is most known at the time for being a doxer and a grifter, who after sensing the winds of change blowing and the SJW momentum dying, decides like any rat on a sinking ship to flee for the newly emerging MAGA movement in a post-Trump election win world, hopping on the leaving the plantation bandwagon in little more than an attempt to get what she wants, fame and attention. Now combine that with a dumb and easily fooled right wing that wants so desperately to shake the albatross of racists and sexists, they platform the scorpion, unwittingly aiding in the future sting to the back they will be gifted in return. Well, you get Candace Owens, and thanks in part, technically, to the current victim of her venom, Ben Shapiro, she was thrusted into social media limelight. A couple days ago, I did a full response video to the Tucker Carlson speech at TPUSA, and at the time, I didn't think to ask if you guys would want more hour-long content that I, can find a full speech, unedited, just full context. And so far, the response has been great because it's really doing well, and thanks. But today, we're going to do a response to Candace Owens, and not the full video, not her full stream or whatever, just the first kind of half hour, because it's mainly just targeted towards Ben Shapiro. Now, I think the entire 2025 TPUSA Amfest has been a fucking disaster. It's had some good clips. There's been some great things here and there. Benny Johnson, was one of them. But it just seems like, even Tim Pool can, see this. It's just WWE. It's really just a bunch of clout-chasing retards all trying to grab the microphone and do some sort of promo battle on each other. Oh, you're doing this and you're doing that, or I'm this. It's just pathetic. It's just a bunch of children. As I said in the Tucker Carlson video, it's just a bunch of people clawing each other like some Dante Inferno-esque picture. It's just pathetic. But let's take a look at what Candace Owens has to say about, little Ben Shapiro. And by the way, I'm not a fan of really any of these people. I don't give a flying fuck. I think they're all out of their minds. Okay.
All right, you guys, happy Friday. Well, I just want to start by saying it's pretty obvious that Ben Shapiro is terrified.
No, well, okay, in a way maybe, but he's more or less just sick and tired of you. Which, again, Ben Shapiro is the doctor to Candace Owens' Frankenstein. He helped her in the early days of her career, or her right-wing career. Because remember, she was really just a fucking lefty SJW that suddenly went to red pill black.
I'll see that now that Charlie Kirk is dead.
And something you've been fucking making views and money off of, just basically creating all sorts of fucking stories surrounding his death, when we know it was a deranged psychopath leftist who had a fucking trans furry boyfriend. You can say however you want that this is somehow Israel manipulating things, and it's like, really, they're gonna go after Charlie? Like, think about that. Of all the people Israel to go after, Charlie Kirk? Like, again, I'm not super pro-Israel that we should do everything for them, and I'm not super anti-Israel that we should do nothing for them. But, like, the anti-Israel people are so retarded that, like, oh, you can't talk about Israel. They'll do this or they'll do that. And it's like, people are making bank talking about shitting on Jews in Israel. Like, all of a sudden, these people who didn't get views, overnight, they're like fucking millions of views and thousands of new subscribers talking against Israel. It really? And look, Nick was deplatformed, and I don't agree with that. I think he should have all the space to say what he wants. because I should have all the space that I want to tell him he's wrong and an absolute retard if I see fit.
He seems to be taking multiple stages and demanding an allegiance to Erica Kirk. In fact, it almost seems like he's demanding that nobody inquire further about Erica Kirk. It's odd because Ben had no allegiance to Charlie Kirk when he was alive. So what is it about Charlie's widow in particular that is inspiring his very public nervous breakdown? Personally, I think he knows something about her.
Yeah, of course, because it's always some fucking red string conspiracy with you, lunatic.
That is what I am sensing, that he knows something about Erica Kirk. And every time he speaks, I grow more certain that Israel might be involved.
Of fucking course, because it's always Israel. It's always them. Look, there are things we can look at when it comes to our relationship with various countries, Israel being one of them. Are they innocent? Do they have, squeaky clean record? No, of course not. They're a group made up of people like any other. But I am so fucking sick of this bullshit. And retards like her, they fail to point out which is it. They'd like to say the Jews, but they don't know if they mean ethnic or if they mean religious. Because anytime they want to point out something, it's easy to show that guys like Karl Marx or Bernie Sanders or Chuck Schumer, all these guys, they're not fucking devout worshiping Jews. So they don't know how to get their story across. And because these people are so fucking loud and so fucking annoying, any real criticism gets flooded with bullshit, and it's just instantly seen as, well, you're just another one of these guys. No, I have legitimate things to not like about certain Jews and parts of Israel. AIPAC needs to register. The ADL needs to shut the fuck up about how white people are bad. There are things to think about, but it's always just you're a shill for Israel or you're a fucking anti-Semite. It's just so stupid, and both sides are so happy flinging buzzwords around. The right has become just as fucking retarded as the left.
9-10.
Well, I say become. They've pretty much always been, really.
So let's keep investigating. Welcome back to Candace. My name out on stage. He's calling for me, and I'd like to show up for him today. Okay, last night he hit the stage at Turning Point USA's Amfest the other night.
Which was so fucking stupid. I am not defending Ben on that. That is so stupid. Like I said, it's just a bunch of wannabe Charlies doing a promo battle like it's fucking WWE. And it's really sad and pathetic on all sides.
And I'd like, first and foremost, just to let you all know, some people noticed that he wasn't on the AmFest list for years, and all of a sudden he's back on the speaker list beginning in 2024. I want to let you know how that actually happened. So the story goes, obviously, that in 2024, Ben fired me in March. Well, he would say management fired me. But firing me wasn't enough. He wanted to make sure my reputation and livelihood was also destroyed. Of course,
you're doing that really to yourself, bitch.
What happened thereafter is Charlie Kirk instantly came out and supported me because we were like brother and sister, always supporting each other publicly. And then I showed you guys a few episodes ago that we found out as I was going to speak in Dallas at their YWLS convention that Ben had sent an intern who was going to ask me a question while I was on stage, but we sort of rumbled this plan. And
this all just seems like like WWE promo just isn't enough. All of this just seems like fucking Game of Thrones. You see what I mean? It's like you got these different factions, these different companies acting as if like they're the different kingdoms, like the Targaryens, the Lannisters, all this shit, and it's honestly boring. They've made this very boring. I guess maybe it's because there's no horses and sword swinging, but it's like I know it's going to be weird, like, well, why are doing a video if you don't care? Well, views, and I'm just going to be honest. Duh. Does that make me a grifter? Fine. They're boring. These people are just annoying, and I'm happy calling them well, retards on my channel.
I called Ben out on stage. Ben did not like that I called him out on stage, so he began working behind the scenes to have Jewish donors start threatening Charlie to make sure that I wasn't invited to speak at year end because I was an anti-Semite. This is what Charlie told me. And instead, he wanted to be invited. So he's just going to purchase a friendship, right? So he comes.
A friendship that you are actively destroying with every fucking video you put out by claiming that his... Imagine you're Charlie, right? And everyone around you, all your so-called friends and even your fucking wife, suddenly want you dead so that they can take control. I'm not saying that that could never happen. Something like that could never happen. But it's like, how dumb do you have to be to not notice anyone in your inner circle that want to see you, taken out? Figuratively or literally. Like, you really have to think Charlie was a fucking blind retard to not know.
At Turning Point USA, and this is what was divulged to me from Andrew Colvett at the time.
I mean, the dude was, first of all, he was my age, but he was like 18, 20 or something like that when he started TPUSA and all this shit. So he wasn't a moron. He was incredibly brilliant. So Candace, you just, every fucking video, you just are saying, well, I'm defending my friend. You're calling your friend a blind, ignorant retard.
I'm willing to spend an offensive amount of money to be a part of Amfest. Like I said, that was told to me by Andrew Colvett directly because he wanted to say, look, like, obviously, we are totally, Charlie is 100% on your side. This is like an offensive ad spend. I was like, take his money. I could care less, obviously. And I knew that he was working with Barry Weiss to call and put an article out saying that the donors, the people on the board of TPUSA want Candace gone. All of this petty behind the scenes behavior because
it's something that you're okay with doing yourself.
I called him out on stage. Okay. So quite literally, this is the definition of buying friends and influence and fame. Now, in case you're listening and thinking, is Ben Shapiro actually capable of that level of pettiness? I want to tell you a story about Thomas Sowell. Yes, Dr. Thomas Sowell of Stanford. The story begins in 2023, shortly after October 7th. Ben was sort of having another one of his open nervous breakdowns, and his audience just went kaput. People just stopped watching his podcast because he was screaming at Americans that we needed to prioritize Israel, and people just didn't feel that way. Okay, it's not our country. I'm sorry that happened to you, but why do Americans need to be screamed at about what's happening in the Middle East? Anyways,
I mean, look, that is a legitimate criticism that often gets drowned out by anything. By all the crazy. Like, do we need to constantly suicidally defend Israel? No. But here's the thing. We give money to fucking tons of countries. Some of them don't like Israel, okay? So here's the thing. If we're going to talk about Israel, we stop giving money to Israel, we gotta stop defending Israel. Okay, let's do the same for all the Euro trash fucking countries who do nothing but call and criticize us for our fat people and our guns violence, while they fucking constantly arrest people for words and guns you can't even own over there as they flood the fucking country full of migrants, as well as all the Scandinavian dumbasses who say, well, we have free healthcare. We get to we actually care about our citizens. Yeah, you have free healthcare because you don't have to pay for a military to defend you because that's our fucking job. How about we pull that money too? How about we pull Qatari money? No one's allowed to fucking say anything about Qatari money or Saudi money, which, by the way, Tucker fucking greatly takes. Mind you, he's happy to cash that check, but anyone who gets that $7K from Israel, they're somehow a shill. Go fuck yourself. I'm sick of this bullshit. For everything you could say about Israel, you could say the same fucking thing about any other goddamn country. Because America has been taken advantage of the world over.
Throughout this time, Brian Mast was wearing an IDF uniform in Congress, and he basically said that there's no such thing as an innocent Palestinian life. And when I saw this, as shared by Yashar Ali on X,
I mean, that's kind of disgusting. I mean, I know a lot of people will point out to the fact that, Palestinians, they kind of train their kids up to be a way. And you could say the same about, Israel, because they have to, constantly hear rockets flying over their heads. But no, there are innocent Palestinians. I think if he was being hyperbolic, I mean, that's a disgusting thing to say, regardless, because the children are innocent. They didn't do anything. They're part of an indoctrination war. They're part of a holy war. They're essentially part of a war that's been going on ever since Cain killed Abel, or more correctly, since Ishmael and Isaac.
I responded and I said that genocidal language, no matter who shares it, is always wrong. Genocide is always wrong is what I tweeted.
And you're one of those fucking morons who wants to talk about the Holocaust as if it didn't actually happen. And maybe it wasn't 6 million. Maybe it was more like, 270? No, we know it was roughly 6 million. You know what we also don't know, Candace fucktard? We don't know about the millions of Christians the Nazis killed, because no one wants to talk about that. And no one wants to talk about all the Jews that the fucking Soviets killed. Here's a newsflash, you dumb fucking cunt. It's not about Jews versus Christians, which I think Jews and Christians should be more on the side, as opposed to you and Tucker, who thinks, we Christians should get along with Islam because the only reason Muslims and Christians hate each other is because of Jewish manipulation. I fucking kid you not. That is what some people retardedly believe, when in reality, the fucking Muslim holy book, the Quran, tells them to kill Christians and Jews and all non-Muslims. Now, I am not saying that this is an Arab problem, because many Arabs are Christian. But this is a Muslim problem, okay? I'm so sick of these people.
This caused an emotional breakdown amongst people who support Israel. I didn't think that was a controversial statement. I thought that was sort of what we all believed in. Genocide is always wrong. Anyways, for Ben...
Yes, it is. But you kind of make your bones denying one. And look, there is also talk about the Armenian one as well. We don't like to talk about that because Christians were killed. Here's the thing. No one wants to fucking talk about it because of, Christians and Jews. Mind you, now here's a little thing. The word Holocaust is not a Jewish word. It is a Greek word which means burnt offering. Jews simply use that because it's the most well-known term so that you understand which particular genocide. The Hebrew word is, I don't know how to fully say it, it's Shoah. S-H-O-A-H, which means desolation. Now, say what you want about Judaism, but I think it's kind of funny that there was this thing about whole 6 million people or 6 million Jews will need to go before Israel becomes a thing again. I mean, it's kind of prophetic if you think about it. But also, it's kind of interesting, and I say this, Hitler was the closest thing we've had to the Antichrist. And if Shoah means desolation, I'm just saying, what did Jesus warn about? Just putting it out there, just asking questions.
He then had some private event, probably at another Jewish donor's house, and somebody caught him standing on a table insulting me over my genocide is always wrong tweet. Take a listen to what Ben had to say.
And the question was about Candace Owens. I think her behavior during this has been disgraceful. Without a doubt. I think it's I can't, what was that? Yeah, I mean, she still works for my company. I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
But, Ben, you created this monster. I hate to tell you this, dude, but you did. You gave her the platform that you now wish she didn't have. You propped her up. I can't have that much sympathy.
Disreputable, disgraceful. She works at my company. You can imagine that the internet went crazy because they wanted me to respond to him. I can't believe this. They work together. They're colleagues. Somehow this gets leaked. And I want to mention, because it's very relevant, that was on the morning of November 14th. I was 6 days away from giving birth. I was very heavily pregnant. Anyways.
And that's relevant. How? Okay. Mazel tov. Great.
Say, wake up to this, and shockingly, nobody from the Daily Wire steps in to manage the situation. And as you can imagine, virtually every journalist, every person with a media platform was contacting me to comment, to respond to me being insulted by someone. I'm about to give birth, I'm being insulted, and they're not getting anything from the Daily Wire. So I am obviously frustrated. You should also tell you, I had no PR at this time. My PR was the internal PR at the Daily Wire. And it was very clear that their focus was on protecting Ben, even though he was the one who insulted me publicly, because I said that genocide is always wrong. That is the genesis of that statement. That's all I said. Obviously, I wanted to respond angrily to the press. I wanted to hit back at Ben. And I guess you could sort of say my perspective was an eye for an eye, but my husband, who is a better person than me, instructed me that morning to instead take a deep breath, relax, okay? Don't think about what you're feeling in the moment. Think about how you're going to feel in the future. And he instructed me to instead read the Bible, the Sermon on the Mount. And I read through it, and he reminds me that everybody who wants to comment, they don't care about me either, right? They're selling headlines, they want the clicks, they want the drama, and I'm going to feed into that for what reason?
Oh, the irony of that entire sentence.
For what reason, actually, am I going to give a comment and say something about Ben Shapiro? Blessed are the peacemakers, right? Don't buy into this click culture.
That is your entire shtick. That is every fucking YouTuber, every fucking podcaster. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The fact that I'm even responding to you is fucking proof of that. Because I wouldn't care if I didn't have a channel and I didn't need to make a video. I wouldn't fucking care.
And so I tweeted that actually my husband was right. I called for peace. I tweeted, "Blessed are the peacemakers," and I made the mistake. I guess it was a mistake that after I tweeted, "Blessed are the peacemakers," and I'm thinking that I'm going to be commended when I get back to work.
Blessed are the peacemakers. What was your perspective on the whole Trump and Israel and Palestine thing? Just asking questions.
Wow, you really took the high road. I ended this biblical passage with Christ is king. Christ is the king. He's the only thing that matters. Obviously, Christ is king. Now, it was just Tucker Carlson's luck that I had been slated to come on his news show the very next day. He had booked me 6 weeks earlier. I got approval from Daily Wire. He booked me for November 15th. So suddenly Ben gets on this table. He insults me. It's trending all over Twitter. And Tucker Carlson is going to be the first person to capture my reaction to it. And when it came time, I kept up with the peacemaker. I made the decision to just take the high road. I said, I don't want that to negatively impact how people perceive the Daily Wire. There are great people there. I mean, I wouldn't be proud on that, but I'm not taking the bait here. I didn't say anything snipey back at Ben because I didn't want to feed the mob. That was my...
The amount of irony of this is insane considering what she did to Erica Kirk. Erica Kirk didn't say anything about her. Didn't say anything. Not allusions, but I guess that's the word. To her, obviously. We all knew that she was talking about Candace. And what did you do, Candace? Almost instantly, you fucking took the bait on the hook. So now all of a sudden you're okay with that? What happened? Did you fucking lose your integrity? Did you get that $7K check or whatever it is for the other side?
My honest perspective, my husband was just right. And also, we're talking about a work colleague, right? Somehow, me taking the high road made him angrier. So here's what he did. Elsewhere in my interview with Tucker, he asks me who I look up to, who I like. And I told Tucker the truth that it was my dream to meet Thomas Sowell. That when I first got into politics, I read a ton of Thomas Sowell books. And I had tried many times to meet him. And obviously he's aging. But I really looked up to Dr. Thomas Sowell. And here's that clip with me and Tucker.
Who do you listen to when you're trying to figure out, some of the stuff comes at you so fast and you're talking almost every day or writing almost every day. Who do you read or listen to try to make sense or bounce ideas off of?
You know,
Who do you
I
trust?
have been obsessed with Thomas Sowell, and everybody knows that. I am pretty much a Thomas Sowell groupie. Everything he writes, I read. And it is because he was a part of my awakening story into politics and made me focus on the economics, which is to say, block out the noise and pay attention to the
Yes.
economics, go backwards in history to understand where we are. When has this worked? Oh, it's never worked. So they're just telling you that it's going to work into the future. And there's no evidence to support that.
So,
Was that before or after you had a doxing site that you still own, mind you, and then you became red pill black? Yeah, but you were always loving Thomas Sowell. Uh-huh.
when Ben saw that, he decided, Thomas Sowell, hey, that's your dream. You love Thomas Sowell. He thought that was an opportunity to get even with me for taking the high road after he insulted me on stage because he's deeply jealous of Tucker Carlson for reasons that I cannot quite understand. Ben had his team reach out and schedule an interview with Thomas Sowell, which they paid for an offensive amount of money, I presume, to effectively purchase a black man who has no idea what's going on. He's very old, he's in his 90s, to hurt my feelings, okay? Interview with Tucker is on the 15th. I think it premieres on the 16th. And Ben gets Thomas Sowell, who he doesn't care about. I'm working at the Daily Wire at this moment, and I'm about to give birth in 3 days. But this was supposed to be like an F you, Candace, for taking the high road and saying that genocide is always wrong. That is what I mean when
See, this is just everyone in this fucking situation is just a little childish, petty bitch. Like it's insane. Like I'm not defending Ben. I'm not defending anyone. They're all fucking awful.
I say he is an incredibly petty man.
You're an incredibly petty woman.
Okay. Now we know how this ends. I then am fired not for what I said, but for what they assumed that I meant.
But okay, isn't it funny that this is one of those retards that will push the 108 countries myth, which is not true? It came from like one or two sources out in, I think, New Zealand or Australia, and they counted individual cities within a country to get the 109 myth that Jews were kicked out of 109 countries. You seemingly keep getting fired for the same behavior, Candace. I'm sorry, but if you want to play by those rules, you have to play the game as you have set them. And if you keep getting fired for the same shit, maybe it's not them per se. Maybe it's you. If you keep getting broken up with, maybe it's you. Maybe you pick bad spouses or mates.
And for trolls that I didn't respond to. And I want to be clear, you can fire whoever you want. You really can if you're a business owner. It's just that this was atypical in the fashion that it was done, right? It wasn't done in the way where you just say, okay, get out of here, it's not working. Instead, what they decided to do was humiliate me in front of all of the other employees by, rather than having a conversation, sort of dramatically having me exit after doing my show, not knowing that I was going to be fired. And then they had put together a stage in my studio and put up clips put together basically a whole package, like almost like a high school play, and conducted what I honestly, when I look back, because it recently leaked what happened at this quote unquote town hall, this is a slave hanging. This is a slave hanging, right? Gather around, everybody else is.
Oh my God, she really is still an SJW. Oh, they were attacking me, the black woman. It's a lynching. Oh, shut up. How quickly do you have to fucking you? Again, these people are so fucking hypocritical. They'll point out that Jews, and they mean the ethnic ones, well, they're always this way, they're always conniving, they're always money hungry, they're always this or that. And white people shouldn't feel any sort of race-based guilt and shouldn't have to pay How do you reconcile those two concepts? And I've had talks with people online, and it's like race guilt is equally cringe as race pride. I do not care. Okay, I've said this in videos before. This is not something I made. This is not something I built. I have no pride or accomplishment in it. I didn't make it. I didn't make my pigmentation. You can't say pulling a race card is a left-wing, woke, whatever buzzword you want to use, but then use it to say, oh, they were doing this to me because I was a black woman. Shut the fuck up, you fucking hypocrite bitch.
A slave, and let me tell you how this one messed up. Gather round. And
especially since you made your fucking bones during, as I said in the preamble, the leaving the plantation era. You stupid fucking insane woman.
Watch us whip this person. This is literally how I feel when I watch this, okay?
Well, that's your feelings. And remember, Candace, they don't matter because of facts.
And you'll know what not to do next. And here is a video of the then CEO, Jeremy Boring, which somehow Steven Crowder got a hold of this week or last week or whatever. This is just a portion of it. You should watch the entire thing because it really is something. And ask yourself in your memory, do you ever recall anybody ever being fired where 300 employees, Ben joined electronically, he was up on the screen too, and just enjoyed watching me be humiliated, where 300 employees are invited down and shown a production.
Look, I don't know. So I'm just going to say this from what it sounds like from my perspective. Maybe it was a clip show honoring one of their biggest names. Maybe you took it and said, oh, this is a fucking black lynching. Maybe, you stupid bitch, maybe you should have listened to your husband yet again because you here are having an emotional reaction. You're not thinking straight or at all as ever you do. Like, this is clearly... They're putting pictures of me as a black woman. It has to be a lynching. Get all the white people around to say, hey, this is what you do. Okay, maybe it was just a clip show of their most prominent member.
Of what this person did wrong. Okay, well, let's watch a little bit of this video.
Candace made no statement at all in the days after Hamas terrorists raped, murdered, and tortured over 1,000 Israeli civilians, mostly Jews, some Americans. And then they took hundreds more hostage. But then on October 28th of 2023, while anti-Israel protests were raging in London, where Candace, I believe, was at the time, she reposted a video of the protests on X, commenting, quote, interesting thing happening here. People are not accepting the media narrative about what's happening in the Middle East, despite the insistent rhetoric from government officials. On November 3rd, she posted, quote, no government anywhere has a right to commit a genocide ever. There is no justification for a genocide. I can't believe this even needs to be said or is even considered the least bit controversial to state. There's only one country on earth being accused of genocide at the time. Anti-Semites on X took to it immediately. They cheered at what they rightly or wrongly interpreted as Candace smearing Israel. And Candace didn't rebuff their interpretation. But when Dave Rubin came to the exact same conclusion as the anti-Semites, only instead of cheering for Candace, found it vile and rebuked her, Candace quickly attacked, saying, quote, what's amazing about this is that I didn't name any country in this tweet. I simply stated that...
Candace, this is the one thing where she actually is smart. You never purposely name anything because you never want to claim as if you're actually holding something called an opinion. You always want to skirt around everything. That's what you do. That's why you never, oftentimes, name names of things. Because you want to be like, well, I didn't say them. They took it that way. And yet, you do the same thing. Again, with the Erica Kirk thing. Erica Kirk did not name you. Did not fucking say you at all. And yet, you still felt the need to fucking respond. Because you're a media whore. And by the way, Israel is not committing a fucking genocide. Genocide people don't give their fucking victims food that their government goes, oh, we're just going to take it and claim Israel it didn't do anything. No. Especially with both food and medical aid.
Genocide is wrong always. This is not a controversial stance. Interesting how you interpreted it. And then followed up with, quote, in short, if the blanket statement that genocide is wrong upsets you in any way, then you need to check yourself. I said exactly what I meant, and I won't be backing down or apologizing or further clarifying this statement. Within 24 hours, Candace liked a post calling Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal. Now let's be clear. You're free to disagree with Israel's conduct, and you're free to oppose the Netanyahu government. But the idea that Israel is committing genocide or that Netanyahu is a war criminal is just factually baseless. Unfortunately, Candace routinely makes insinuations about Jews that both lovers of anti-Semitism and haters of anti-Semitism both agree is anti-Semitic. And in almost every one of these instances, Candace says nothing to the anti-Semites who cheer her and only pushes back against those who disapprove of her comments.
Yeah, that's actually kind of telling. I mean, I can't say if Candace, if you're trying to be fair and you're just going after facts, and if you're just going, well, this doesn't look right, why is it that when both sides of the argument that come at you, you only push against one? Whenever I am attacked, I could say, on Twitter or whatever, I just go off on the side that I don't like either side. I think both sides. Like when I say, race-based pride and guilt is equally wrong. Both sides will come at me and say, well, you're just a race traitor, or you're just a fence sitter. And it's like, I don't care. Both of you can go fuck yourself. If you're only pushing against one side when you claim to be just asking questions, when you claim to be fair, when you claim to be balanced and all this, you're not. You're absolutely not. And sure, you can disagree with Israel and Netanyahu or whatever, but when you say something that you think is, fair and, down the middle, and obviously when you say something that's down the middle, both sides are gonna, swarm you. You only go after one side of the fence. You don't clarify with the other side and say, hey, I'm not with them, and hey, I'm not with them. You just say, this is what is true. This is what I know to be true. You're clearly picking a side, Candace.
On February 28th of this year, Candace, just asking questions, posted, quote, "Time to look into the history and profiteering of pornography." Her replies were immediately flooded with anti-Semites cheering her for the question and providing the answer that they interpreted her to mean, the Jews. Once again, Candace did nothing to disabuse the anti-Semites of their assumption. But
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, look, I'm not saying that she can't say that. And I'm not saying that the people who run to defense or attack that self-interpret what she means are correct. But if you put out a blanket statement and you have two sides come at you and you weren't trying to appease either side, you will tell both of them to say, hey, no, this is not what I meant. I'm not for you. I'm not for you. But when both sides of the side of the fence attack you and you're only pushing back against one, and you're letting the others roam free, you're letting those inmates run the asylum, it's clear you have an agenda, Candace. It's clear. Like, I don't want to throw around the word anti-Semite any more than I want to throw around the word Nazi. I think it's equally stupid to throw around buzzwords that do nothing but make you, your side, and the word completely irrelevant.
When Anthony Koch came to the exact same conclusion, Candace pushed back, saying, quote, "This is utterly insane. I tweeted that porn is harming men in our society, and this person has interpreted that as an attack on Jews. This is an example of clinical insanity. There is no other explanation."
I stand by all of those tweets. Pornography is harming.
Okay, no, don't fucking do this, Candace. You fucking you fucking bitch. What you said was not the problem. How you reacted and responded was, you insane bitch. Yes, pornography is bad. Yes, there's a lot of problems. And as I said, I think in my Tucker Carlson video, there are people that, yes, climb the ranks in society very well. Jews, Asians are those groups, white Americans as well. So, because they prioritize success, intelligence, and getting ahead in society. So when you have a system, let's say it's bad, like pornography, and those people, are just good at what they do, climbing the ranks, they're really smart, they can, wheel and deal, they're going to be successful in that. They can do the same thing in a system that promotes charity or, medicine. Why is this? Yes, there's a lot of people who are ethnically Jewish in the porn industry or in, whatever. But there's also a lot of lawyers and doctors and just average everyday people. This idea that it's like saying, well, every black is a criminal. Clearly that's not true. Now, you should look at statistics and let's see, work things out. But there are average everyday people and there are fucking assholes.
Men, we should look into who profits off of pornography.
Secularists, okay? This has nothing to do with fucking Jews. And again, do you mean ethnic Jew or do you mean religious Jew? Because a religious Jew would not be for pornography. They have no... That's incredibly wrong because Jews also believe in the kind of marriage that Christians believe in. Shockingly, because Christians got their idea of marriage from the Jewish people, from the Israelites, the Hebrews, from their fucking... Because it's the same fucking God. Now, you throw the Messiah thing into the mix, that's where I will disagree heavily. But that's not what I'm saying.
Genocide is always wrong, no matter which country calls for it, whatever. What was controversial about anything that I say? Now, I'm again wanting you to... These are my crimes. Just imagine 300...
No, your crimes are not saying those opinions. Your crimes are not pushing back and saying, hey, I don't care what this side or that side says. This is a fact. But you allowed one side to have all the reign and you wouldn't shut the fuck up about the others.
People being brought and said, like, she said this and this is what we know. And then he goes into a diatribe about the real beating of Christ as king and he shows videos of Nick Fuentes, which had nothing to do with me. I had never even spoken. I think only one time I'd spoken ever to Nick Fuentes.
I don't like Nick Fuentes. He's a fucking plant. And the whole Christ is king thing. Now, here's the problem with that. You can say something that is completely factual, but if your intent was to be a dick, that's a different thing. You can say whatever you want, but if your intent is to hurt or belittle people, that is different, okay? And I'm not saying you should have your freedom of speech taken away because of your intent to use a word, obviously, but I'm going to hold you to an account or to a standard of... I don't want to say, well, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, but I'm going to hold you to a standard of good versus bad faith. If you're saying something, here's the thing, Candace, it's one of the commandments, thou shalt not take the Lord thy God's name in vain, which means don't do evil in God's name. If you're using literally Christ, which means, I think it translates roughly to like Messiah or anointed one. If you're using literally Christ's name to belittle people, that's not good, okay? If you're just saying, hey, I believe, Jesus Christ is the only king, which is, for me, as a staunch anti-monarchist, is the only king I acknowledge. And the only reason he calls himself that is because it's the highest form of government at the time. Today, he could have said president of presidents or prime minister of prime ministers, and it would have meant the same thing.
And it was pertaining to Kanye. Yeah, that was it. But I'm showing you this because it's important for you to understand that this has never stopped. I want you to imagine if you view
Because you've never shut the fuck up.
yourself to be a slave owner, and that slave not only survives like this public whipping, but
Oh my God, you fucker playing the race card. See, this is the hypocrisy that is just pouring out of the mouth of this woman. I'm nothing more than just like the slaves of my ancestor days. How can you be anti-SJW, anti-woke, anti all this left-wing shit, and then say the same fucking script?
that escapes and becomes successful. That's pretty much my relationship with
You didn't escape, okay? You weren't a slave. In fact, you're only successful because you got platformed by the person you now attack. Again, I don't like the person you're attacking, but I don't like you either.
Ben Shapiro since he's fired me because they have not stopped.
Oh, and here's the thing. For anyone in the comments who's going to say I'm pushing for Candace or I'm pushing for Ben, guess what? Unlike Candace, I will push back against both of your asses because both sides of the camp can go fucking die.
Have not
In Minecraft.
stopped. I am talking about people working behind the scenes to call advertisers, attempting to bankrupt me in courts, sending undercover interns to stalk me. He has issued thus far 3 court proceedings, okay, for every solitary petty infraction against things that I say. He's worked with Barry Weiss behind the scenes to have articles written about me. It is non-stop. I refer to this, just to be clear, as legal abuse. It's legal abuse. And I have put up with a lot of it. I have put up with the pettiness of even suing me because I interviewed a USS Liberty survivor who mentioned your name as you pretend that you care about free speech and debate. I've put up with a lot of it, but today I draw the line. I draw the line with this miserable imp when it comes to Charlie Kirk, okay?
A person who you are dragging their legacy through the fucking mud of, by the way.
Don't try me on this, but you keep trying me on this. You are an imposter, Ben. You're an imposter. You
So are you. And it's time you got fucking thrown out the vent.
pay to pretend that you're
Airlock,
friends, that you have a right to be on that stage because you get donors to pressure people, because you know Jewish people who can threaten to take money, where you say, I'm going to do an advertising spend. Here's $1 million. I'm sorry, you're dead. The entire world knows that you are an imposter. I mean, you're so much of a fraud that essentially what you do is you have people send around clips to grown men to cheer you on, to pretend like the audiences love you. You staff audiences with people that work for YAF who are told to explode into cheers when you hit the stage because you don't have the confidence anymore to go out into the world.
Okay, so you're saying he's IRL bot farming. You know, that kind of thing that a lot of people that champion and promote the shit that you and Nick Fuentes and pretty much a whole bunch of people did that was actively shown with the Twitter update. Okay, so
Because you know people see you for what
again,
you are.
bad on both sides. Okay,
And so it
are you going to do
exactly what he did yesterday. We can now listen to what this imposter said as he hit the stage. Charlie Kirk's organization, the one that he built for debate, if you have a disagreement, and he instructs people here in this speech to go after me and Tucker Carlson, right? That's what he's going to do. He wants us deplatformed. So he's going to attack me, he's going to attack Tucker Carlson, and he's going to attack Megyn Kelly because she's at the beginning of what these people have put me and Tucker and Charlie Kirk through. Take a listen to a portion of what Ben had to say.
So, if Candace Owens decides to spend every day since the murder of Charlie Kirk casting aspersions at TPUSA and the people who work here, who worked with Charlie every single day, his best friends, to cast aspersions at Mikey McCoy and Andrew Colvin and Blake Neff and Tyler Boyer, and yes, at Erica Kirk, and to imply or outright claim complicity in a cover-up over Charlie's murder, to spew absolutely baseless trash implicating everyone from French intelligence to Mossad to members of TPUSA in Charlie's murder or a cover-up in that murder, then we, as people with a microphone, have a moral obligation to call that out by name.
Okay, what part of that is saying that you should be deplatformed, Candace? What part of that is saying that Tucker Carlson should be deplatformed, Candace? None. He didn't say anything about that. Having people call your ass out is not having you deplatformed, you insane bitch. It's saying that you have the right to say your spewed bullshit, and I and others and whoever else has the right to say you're wrong. That's not deplatforming. Getting told no, you spoiled brat, is not deplatforming.
So no, Tucker Carlson, it is not an excuse to go silent on Candace's targeting of TPUSA.
But again, I also think that this was just so stupid on Ben's part. This is just, again, a fucking promo battle between the dumbest people.
Or to mirror her bullshit lines of questioning because you love Candace personally. The same holds true of Megyn Kelly, a person I consider a friend, characterizing Candace as a young mother and thus shying away from condemning her actions or fibbing about them. That is a non-starter. When Candace Owens says, I don't know, but I know, that is retarded. And we are all more retarded for having heard it.
Okay. None of that was talking about deplatforming you. You edited the clips to make it sound like he was calling for you to be censored. None of that was what that was. Okay? It was simply Ben trying to be cool, using curse words and shit, trying to be, one of the kids, and just battle on stage, this fucking battle rap-esque bullshit in speech form against you, Tucker, and Megyn Kelly. Both of you, all of you, whatever, you're fucking pathetic. You are climbing over each other to get that little bit of attention because you want to be Charlie Kirk, which Charlie Kirk wasn't the biggest thing in the Republican movement. Charlie Kirk wasn't the biggest thing in the MAGA movement. Charlie Kirk was not the thing holding it all together. Only post-death is everyone making him far bigger than he actually was. And I by no means am diminishing who he was. He just was not the key stone of it. That was Trump. So now you guys are all pumping him up post-mortem to make yourself feel better. That's all this is. Because he was influential, he was brilliant, he was courageous, but he wasn't the big champion you guys are making him out to be. It's all this post-death mourning, I guess you could call it, seeing him as a greater titan than he really was. And all of you just want to be what he was. And this is what I've said before. Candace, you act like a fucking bitter ex-girlfriend. You act like someone who lost out to Erica. It's fucking obvious. This is how you're behaving.
Well, Ben, when it comes to you and having worked with you, I just know the tactics that you use to feign popularity.
And the tactics you have used constantly. Again, doxing website you still own.
In the public. I just know the amount of money that you are willing to spend on advertising to inflate your numbers to make people think that you're popular. So, yeah, I don't have to say we don't know when it comes to you. You are such a joke of a little man. Your jealousy against Tucker, your ability to believe that you can keep manipulating the markets. You know those kids booed you on that stage. The amount of messages I got from Turning Point USA people saying, what is happening? Why is he on this stage? Standing against everything that Charlie believed in.
Oh my God, I think I might just title this video The Absolute Irony of Candace Owens, because holy fucking shit, bitch. That's been your entire fucking stance since Charlie was assassinated. And again, Ben, at least in the clips you showed, did not call for you, Tucker, or anyone to be deplatformed. He said it was a moral obligation to call out your bullshit. And that is exactly why my channel exists and why the fucking end credits of my channel are what they are. Because the point of it is to call out demons, wherever they hide, wherever they slither from. He didn't call for you to be censored. Now, you can interpret that as however you want, but that is your opinion.
That's what you're doing. You're standing against everything that Charlie believed in because you weren't his friend. He didn't like you for that very reason. Look at you, and I just think you are.
Oh, God. That was such the way she said that was so high school, petty, condescending. He didn't like you. Yeah, he didn't like you like he liked me. Oh, my God.
You're such a little worm. I could see you right now, probably. What can we get out to her? We're going to sue her into bankruptcy again, right? Sue her for every infraction, every word that I don't like, and every time my feelings are hurt. Because what you really believe in is Baal Berith. That's what your people believe in. You believe that you are contract lords and that people are not allowed to violate contracts or you will ruin them for years. You fire someone and you effectively stalk and harass them for years after. I'm here to let...
So, not breaking a contract? I'm not well versed in what the fuck she just said, but I'm pretty sure breaking a contract is kind of wrong. And if you knowingly do it, especially knowingly do it,
you know that I'm done with it. I am done with it. This one is so fully off of the mother effing plantation. Truly, Ben Shapiro, fuck you and the midget horse that you rode in on.
oh God, why? Ever since Trump, all these people decide to come out and say, fuck, shit, damn, bitch, whatever. I do it. I pepper my fucking videos with it. I pepper my everyday speech with it. I don't care. But every one of these guys wants to sound so cool, so hip, so one of the kids. You know, I say cuss words and I say things that no one else is saying, so I must be cool. I got rabbit hole information. Shut up.
And I say that on behalf of the world.
Please don't speak for me. The arrogance of that statement. You don't speak for the world. You don't even speak for your own fucking country.
I know. You're going to get applauded by Konstantin Kisin and Andrew Christ is King Clavin and all of the people, the men who have to keep applauding what you do like you're a 4-year-old to make you feel good. But the rest of the world can't stand you. You're obnoxious. You have absolutely no values that exist outside of the Talmud.
Okay, this is where I really wanted to get into because I heard this. I'm just going to say this. I am sick and fucking tired of people who have no idea what the Talmud actually is speaking on the Talmud. Okay? The Talmud is not a Jewish holy book. Now, are there Jews that might see the book as something to look up to? Yes, because it's studied. Okay? So is the Torah. So is the entire Tanakh. The Talmud is not a holy book. And specifically, they want to refer to the Babylonian Talmud, as there are a few. The Talmud is little more than a group of debates held by different Jewish people or different rabbis over the decades, really. That's like taking a racist rant that some courtroom had and saying it was, written down by a stenographer, so all of America must think that way, right? No. In fact, the Talmud many times refers to different verses in the Old Testament, obviously the Old Testament, and says, what you said is wrong. So this thing that these people point out that Jews think of us as, easily manipulated or animals and whatever, that is an idea that some dumbass rabbi could put forward, and another rabbi can say, hey, whoa, you can't do that. You can't say that because the what they would call it Tanakh, the Old Testament, says no. It's not a holy book. It's a debate book. And in fact, most of what has been considered with the Talmud has been forgery and purposefully out of context. In fact, during one of the oldest stories about this, it was a Jewish convert to Christianity who gathered parts of the Talmud and brought it to, I think this was like Louis XIV or something. So one of the French kings at the time, and one of the worst popes, I believe it was the guy known as the Bloody Pope. He brought that information to them, and they then drawed up Jewish people on trial and basically just got rid of them. It was all bullshit. It was all horseshit because these people didn't want to hear anything. That's what that is. It's not a holy book. And the idea of, they say Jesus is boiling and burning excrement in hell. First off, the Jesus that they were referring to is about 200 years before, it could be after, but before, I'm fairly certain, the Jesus that we know. Keep in mind, Jesus is the Englishized version of what his name was, Yeshu. There was also more than one of them back then. Just like there was multiple Marys and Josephs, and hell, there was even another Judas after the famous Judas who became a disciple or something like that. The Jesus that they were referring to in the Talmud is a sorcerer who tried to convince the people to go and leave and become witchcraft worshippers. The problem is they don't get the name of the father right. They don't get the name of Joseph right. They have a couple followers of Jesus, about 3 or 4. Even a basic understanding of the fact that Jesus had many, many followers, even if you wanted to just include the main one, only getting 4 is a big miscalculation, especially from a group of people, especially in the ancient world. We like to, think that the ancient people are somehow stupid. They can't, we're so much smarter than them because we can order shit with our phones. No, they were very meticulous in numbers and in locations and all kinds of shit, right? To knowingly only say 4 followers of Jesus opposed to the known 12 is a big miscalculation, especially since none of the names of the supposed followers of this Jesus were correct. The only one you could kind of say was Matthew. So, no, I'm sick and tired of the fucking Talmud fucking argument. It's horseshit, it's drawn out, it's bullshit. I disagree with Jews when it comes to the Messiah. I disagree with Jews out of respect, not out of hate. Because I respect that if it had not been for them both, adhering to God, and there are many times that they had stopped adhering to God, and by the way, we all go through that ups and downs when it comes to God. If it had not been for the promises that was given to them, now you can make, all the distinction that, modern Jews aren't the same as ancient Israelites or whatever. That's really not true. Hundreds of years of wandering different countries, you kind of get a diluted bloodline, I'm just saying, especially with the 12 tribes being scattered, is that I wouldn't have a means to talk to God through Christ. Because, as I say, God will make himself known to the Gentiles. He said that. And his form of doing that was himself as Jesus. So I disagree with Jews out of respect, because had it not been for everything that they've gone through and all the stories of the Bible and the Old Testament, there would be no New Testament. And that's what's really weird, is that a lot of people who just hate Jews and just hate Israel often start to hate the Old Testament. And they often point to that as proof that this is just how Jews are. And it's like, you do realize that all of humanity was like that, okay? Because there was no Christ then, okay? To hate a certain people to the point that you even hate a part of your own story, that's, yeah. So I don't care about the whole Talmud argument.
I myself as a Talmudic Jew, and I've learned what's in that Talmud, and I encourage other people at home to learn what is in that Talmud so that you know what Ben thinks of you, because he doesn't just hate me, he hates you too, white men. He hates all black people, okay?
This is another thing. It's trying to get... They try to use this as a means to say, Jews are the reason why whites and blacks hate each other. Jews are the reasons why Muslims and Christians hate each other. Jews are the reasons why there's this and that. They literally blame Jews for every fucking thing, okay? And I don't care what anyone has to say. And if it's every time... It's none of the time, right? If everything is Jews, if everything is Nazis, they are the same fucking stupidity. I don't care. Are there Jews that are, doing bad things? Yeah, there's black people doing bad things. There's Asian people doing bad. And yeah, people will say, well, the statistics and blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I'm trying to say. If you're saying that literally everything is constantly Jews, then it just looks like you're an idiot. It just looks stupid, because it can't possibly be literally everything, okay? I mean, even Henry Ford blamed the change in the taste of candy on Jews.
If he's following the rules of the Talmud, I mean, when I say hate...
The Talmud is not a rule book, you dumb bitch. It is a debate book, because Jews famously love to argue.
They think that we're animals.
No, they don't. That is a debate that people had. And it's clearly obvious that the Old Testament, which is referenced, says no.
that they have a right to own us, that they have a right to make us worship them, that they have a right to lie
That is utter bullshit.
to us, that they have a right.
No. You know who has a right to lie? Islam. They have a system of lying in order to promote Islam. Jews don't. In fact, they still have the Old Testament, meaning they still have the Old Commandments. You know, thou shalt not lie. Okay? You can say that a Jewish person thinks that it's okay to lie to a non-Jew, but they cannot pull from anything that is a religious book of theirs to say that's true. That's like saying, you know, Christians promote, the Bible promotes it's slavery. No, it doesn't. You can have Christians, and I know she brings this up, you can have Christians who promoted and did the slave trade. Guess what? That doesn't mean anything because they are not relying on God or Jesus or the Bible. They were relying on their own insanity, their own self-righteous translation. There is no Jewish thing that says you can own another person. Okay? Because if it's in the Old Testament, it's for it. Christians have it too. So if you want to say, well, they point to the Talmud is not a holy book. It's not.
Right to sue us and take everything that we have, that they have a right to deceive us,
No.
that they have a right to treat Charlie the way that he treated Charlie while he was alive,
No.
only to then try to defraud the population into thinking that he is somehow a part of his legacy.
Oh, the fucking irony, because that's what you've been doing every day since he died.
That he somehow cared about Charlie Kirk and cares to protect the people that are working at Turning Point USA. Goodbye, Ben. Goodbye. The question is, how much more money is Ben Shapiro going to spend to make people think that he's popular? How many more articles is his father going to write under a pen name, Hank Berrien of the Daily Wire, under the pen name Hank Berrien, as he wrote while Ben was at Breitbart, before he turned his back and betrayed them too, because that is his nature.
And you've been fucking fired and all kinds of things. You both are the same in that regard, okay?
One of these belly creatures, sliver on. The question is, how
Did she say sliver or slither? I think she meant slither, but it's not like she said sliver.
many more weeks and years do we have to keep pretending like Ben Shapiro is relevant? It's an open-ended question. Of course, what followed Ben Shapiro on stage is somebody who Charlie Kirk loved very much and who he fought for to the very end against the Jewish donors who were pressuring him, some of them because Ben Shapiro insisted that they do. Take a listen to what Tucker Carlson had to say when he hit the stage.
The prediction that, at some point when Republicans took power again, which I did everything I could, to help, and really felt that was important.
Yeah, I covered this already, so I don't really care.
That is Charlie Kirk's true legacy, and that is Charlie Kirk's true friend, just as I was and am and will continue.
No, you're not. No, you're not, because you're literally trying to destroy Turning Point, the thing he created, because you're a jealous, bitter bitch.
Continue to fight and ask questions about who killed Charlie Kirk. And to people that are at home, I implore you to wait.
A radical, delusional, brainwashed leftist freak who hated Charlie because of the media telling them, and you could say, well, the media is run by Jews. The media isn't run by a religion. You could say, well, then you have to make the distinction between religious and ethnic Jews. Okay, but what does ethnic have to do with anything unless you then mean that race matters? But the whole point of the right and the whole point of your career was to be a black woman who didn't want to be in the government Democrat plantation, so you then break that. So why is race only important when you want to push it and when you want to hide behind it like a fucking cudgel? You hypocrite.
Wake up to these people who believe that they are contract lords. I challenge Black Americans.
Oh, God. Placating to the race to attack another race and then saying that race hustling is wrong and whatever. First of all, I don't believe race is a thing. It's not a thing. It's not. There's different kinds of people based on environment factors that develop different features. That doesn't mean the same thing. We're all human. The Bible even says so. If you fucking care at all, there is no man, no woman, no Jew, no Gentile, no free, no slave. We are all one in Christ Jesus. End of fucking story. There is no race-based bullshit in Christianity. And if you are a fighter for the Western civilization and what we stand for, you have to fight for Christianity because it founded it. Thus, you are fighting for a Jew who was killed by the government and by the religious leaders. End of fucking debate.
To wake up to your true history because your quarrel is not with white men, okay? Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims.
There it is. No, I am fucking done. I am fucking done, okay? No. Christians and Muslims don't fucking hate each other because of Jews, you delusional fucking insane asylum escapee. Muslims hate everyone who isn't Muslim. There are Muslims, a large portion of them around the world are okay with the use of violence and force in order to impose Islam, which is why Hitler loved Islam and hated Christianity. And this is why I can't stand the aristocrat utensil who thinks might makes right. Well, guess what? That's communism. That's Islam. Is it any wonder that those two fucking things, those two great evils, those two heads of a serpent, of a dragon, constantly work together? Christians and Jews disagree, but if we would work together, we would agree far more because the Old Testament pushes for Christianity. And I implore anyone who is ethnically Jewish, whatever, specifically religious Jew, I implore you, read the Old Testament, okay? Especially Isaiah, and read the New Testament, because Christians, we shouldn't hate Jews. We should try and explain that it is because of them, because of their stories, because of the Old Testament, that we as non-Jews can be part of the family. We can be the bride married in to your family because of one of your own, Jesus. Now, I implore that with Muslims as well. But the fact is, Muslims and Christians don't fucking hate each other because of Jews.
Wake up and learn the true history of slavery.
Yeah, it was the Arab Muslim world who started the North African slave trade, you stupid bitch. And it was your black African ancestors who sold their fellow enslaved Africans because they saw it as a way to make money because they were already warring and enslaving with each other in Africa. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those groups.
Because that wasn't exactly a white men sport, okay? Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade.
No, it fucking wasn't. Did they own a lot of the boats? Sure. Guess what? They saw that as a money-making opportunity. Guess what? So did the fucking white Christians, and who justified it by saying, well, black people, the reason why people have darker skin is because that's the mark of Cain. I kid you fucking not. That was a real thing.
They've buried a lot of it, but it's there. And
again, you know what else they buried? All the Christians Hitler killed, which were millions of them, almost as much, I would say even more, than the supposed number of Jews.
You can find it. I think all of us need to wake up to this because it's making me absolutely sick.
Your words are making me sick, you fucking bitch.
That he is so bold that he dare sit near Charlie Kirk's chair, that he dare
that you dare even utter his name.
Grace that stage when Charlie Kirk knew exactly what Ben Shapiro was and will always be. So again, on your belly, Ben Shapiro. We'll be back after a brief break.
All right, you guys.
Okay, that's the Ben Shapiro retort she did. That was a bunch of bullshit. That's all that was. It was a bitter ex-girlfriend pissed off that she wasn't the one picked. And again, I am no way defending Ben. I think he's a problem. I think Candace is a problem. I think Tucker is becoming, if not become, a problem. I am done with all of them, okay? And the TPUSA event was a fucking shit show of WWF Monday Night War proportions. Because it was just a bunch of people yelling and trying to vie for whatever sliver of power they think they can achieve by uttering Charlie's name, by standing on the stage he built. And then she wants to put out bullshit of like, oh, Jewish people controlled slavery, Jewish people started slavery, Jewish people do this. When that's not even true. Keep in mind, it was the Christians who ended slavery here in the West. Where does slavery still exist? Is Israel having open air slave markets? No. Does Israel, still have people in chains right now, castrating them? No. Not to my knowledge, anyway. Now you can say, well, they control money and wealth. Sure, and that's a means of slavery too, but that's not an exclusive thing. It really isn't. As I said, lots of people, want to use that as a justification. But there are open air slave markets in Africa, in the Middle East, specifically the Muslim world. And I'm not doing this as a means to hate on Arabs or even hate on Muslims. I'm just saying. That's the facts. But, let me know what you think about what she said, what I said, and do you think she's right? Do you think that we should be looking into more of the Jewish bullshit? Do you think I'm just a $7K check bought and paid for shill? Let me know. I welcome both sides, because as I said, I will tell you both to off. But anyway, thanks for dropping by. Leave a like, leave a comment, and remember, God bless, and may demons fear when you wake in the morning. Thank you.